I imagine that there may be millions and millions of people who, if you were to ask them, if you could go back in time, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40 years, depending on how old you are, would you change something, or would you change some things, change circumstances? How many of those people would actually say, no, I wouldn't change anything? If you're going to ask me that question, honestly, I would change a lot of things. If I only knew. This is the Alex Sandy Lee experience. Now, I've been thinking a lot about doing this particular video. I prepared just some bits and pieces. So they're kind of random stuff. You know, if only I knew now what I knew, what am I talking about? If I only knew now what I could have known back then, maybe 30, 40 years ago. You know, my parents tried to tell me as a youngster. Yeah, that's a photo of me when I was probably maybe 9 or 10 years of age. Oh my goodness. But I just didn't listen. But the majority of the stuff, I just literally, honestly, didn't know. I didn't know. You know, so, you know, my dad would always say to me, Alex, you must look after yourself, because nobody else is going to do it for you. But by the grace of God, I've got the best woman, a wonderful woman, who is my wife. Yeah, we married for almost 15 years. But all those other girlfriends, my dad said, you know what? Why are you with that girl? Surely you could find another girl. The bit of a player in me. And it wasn't so much about my eating habits. If you did eat like this, you wouldn't have been like that. I probably couldn't even really have said that, actually. No. So, yeah, you know, there's a lot of things that my mum and dad tried to instill in us, or instill in me when I was a youngster, to try and do the right thing. So when I get older, I'm seen to be doing the right thing. So the first thing that my mum and dad, particularly my mum, tried to instill in me was to create a realistic budget. Don't just spend as if, you know, money was just walking or just dripping through your hands. Because those of you who know me, I don't have the best relationship with money, or money doesn't have the best relationship with me. So this involves, you know, planning how to spend and save money. You know, back in the days, you know, of the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, you know, mum and dad worked many jobs to kind of provide for me and my other siblings. And they tried to say to me, you know, save money. Again, back in those days, when I got to secondary school, we had grants. Who remember grants? Grants? Not Grant Mitchell from the EastEnders.
Hello, bruv.
But grants where, you know, these monies were given to you as a student to spend on resources. And I think we probably got maybe £250 grant from the council, local council, to spend on resources. And I spent maybe 8% on records and other bits of silly things. I didn't learn the lesson. But one thing I could probably honestly say, literally, if I only had known about it, was probably health. You know, looking after myself a lot better. You know, I'm kind of, you know, hurtling, going very quickly to, you know, a retirement age. And I think I kind of look okay for my age. But I think if I had eaten a lot better, exercised a lot more, I probably would have been in a better condition than I am. And they do say, you know, healthy body, healthy mind. That's something my mum and dad never taught us. Because coming from a West Indian family, we ate a lot of meaty stuff, you know, fruits and vegetables. Yeah, I mean, some of you will probably say it's kind of sturgy, but sturgy, is that such a word? I don't know. But we ate quite well, by the grace of God. But another thing, you know, I only wish I knew about, again, was invest wisely. So back in the 80s, when we had a particular Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister of England, Maggie Thatcher, also known as the Iron Lady, a lot of the nationalised institutions were privatised. And my mum and my grandmother, you know, took advantage of that. My mum brought some stocks and shares in the telecommunications company. A particular, how can I say, it's like a fuel company. I'm not going to mention their names. And mum and dad and our grandmother brought some stocks and shares for us. And again, I didn't take it serious. Maybe I didn't really understand it. What's this? Stocks and shares? Didn't really understand it. And it does go back to at least in the schools over here in the UK, the curriculum doesn't allow for teaching youngsters about, financial knowledge, about how to apply, how to understand about saving, how to understand about investing money, how, buying shares, stocks, bonds, commodities. We never taught that at school. So it's down to my grandmother and my mother, understand about buying those investments, and come the time for retirement, and of course when they're passing, that they can pass it on to the next generation, my other siblings. And again, I think I just didn't understand it. But if I had a better understanding of what it was about investing, diversifying, I think I'd probably have been in a better financial position, not so much financially wise, but, knowledge wise. If those of you who saw my last video about, reading books are not going to help you. You can read books, but applying the knowledge in the real life circumstances holds you in a better situation. But that's not down to my mum and dad. I don't blame my mum and dad or even my grandmother. Literally, that's down to my stupidity, my silliness, and my ignorance. But, I would say I am in a better situation. I'm in a better situation. My knowledge about, investing is a lot better compared to when I was in my teens. But, yeah. Anyway, on to the next thing. Educate yourself. Yes. Again, coming from, a Caribbean or West Indian background, mum and dad was all about, you've got to respect authority, respect your teachers, you respect your elders, but also educate yourself. That's something that I, again, in later on in my life, because I worked in schools, I think I probably learned a lot more by supporting these children than I would have done if I was just left on my own. So educate yourself, Alex. You can't leave it to, the education sector that I work in. You've got to go beyond that and educate yourself. So if it is about, learning, another language, I mean, that was part of the curriculum back in the day, and the arts, but the funding for that in the curriculum has been cut back. So you need to educate yourself, whether it's being more savvy, about investing, learning another language, traveling. Educate yourself. Literally, there's no excuse now. There's no excuse. Again, there are physical books there. There's, ebooks. You can go on the internet. Educate yourself. I mean, I did so many courses on the internet. It was a platform called Allison, not a woman, Allison.com, providing so many courses there for free. The only thing you pay for would have been for the certificate. And I just checked, I think last year, that's how they make their money. But there is no excuse. Educate yourself. Anyway, last but not least, if only I had known about this, about me going bald. Oh my goodness. Just look at it. Just look at the bald heads. Or as the kids would call me, slaphead. Mr. Lee Slaphead. Yeah, thank you for that. Anyway, there's nothing I can do about that unless I probably wear a wig. But yeah, if only I had known those things or taken them more serious. But again, it's not too late because I'm not taking a dirt nap, if you know what that means. But anyhow, this is the end of the video. And if you want to know who or what you're listening to, you have been listening to the Alex Sandy Lee Experience.